And we are live. We are live. Give me 1 second, and people, good people, I'm going to check up on my social media, make sure that I'm actually live. Looks like it might be a little bit of a delay, but I have a good one for you guys today. This was one that I dive deep in when I do my coaching calls with people. So I'm going to do this right here live for you guys today. Hopefully, it brings you value. I hope you're having a good Monday here in the US. And I also hope you can hear me. Thumbs up if you guys can hear me. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me. But I'm getting a delay here on my. All right, we're good. All right, guys. I've got a good one. Hello from France. Hello from France. I've got a good one for you guys today. I am excited to talk to you about this because you may never have to book a call with me because of this. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and answer all your questions today. I'm going to give you a high level kind of overview of what fearful avoidant and dismissive avoidant looks like when they're in no contact. All right. So what's going on, my beautiful people? We're talking about one of the most misunderstood parts of attachment recovery, which is no contact. I know you guys see no contact all over the place. Drop. I want you to tell me what you feel your ex's attachment style was, or someone you're dating right now, if you feel they have a fearful avoidant attachment style or a dismissive avoidant. So usually part of the call is trying to figure that one out, trying to understand the origin story of the person and let you guys, I guess whoever I'm talking to, just kind of inform them on what I feel the person they were talking to or in a relationship with attachment style was. And once we get through that piece, then I know exactly how to navigate the rest of it. So I have an order of things I'm going to do today. First, we'll talk about the differences between the fearful avoidant and dismissive avoidant. Next, we'll talk about the timeline and the triggers of each attachment style. And then we'll talk about what you can do in order to recover that relationship. I need translation. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I'll be here. I'll be here. Hopefully you'll get the translation. All right, without wasting any more of your time, I've already took up 2 minutes and 45 seconds, and it's time to get into it. No contact isn't a one size fits all, right? How they experience that breakup and that no contact depends on entirely on their nervous system, right? So first we'll talk about the core differences between dismissive avoidance and fearful avoidance. The dismissive avoidance when you go into no contact or before you go into no contact, why things end up, in a weird rocky state to begin with. Because you have to think about their belief systems. The core beliefs of a dismissive avoidance is I'm going to lose a dismissive avoidant is I'm going to lose my independence. I'm going to lose my autonomy. For the fearful avoidant, they just fear being abandoned, and it shows up exactly like an anxious attacher show up, but they have this switch that flips when they actually feel like this abandonment is real. They try to just cauterize that. That's the word, cauterize whatever it was that wound that they have, and just sear it off. They both fear intimacy, but they each have opposite reasons as to why they fear that intimacy. And when you go silent on them, right? When you go silent, you'll have totally opposite reactions. I just coached a guy through this, and this is part of the reason why I want to do it. He reached out for some email coaching, and it's worked. Hopefully, he can build on that momentum. So here's what happens when you go into no contact. Moving on to the next part. The dismissive avoidant, their initial response is relief, right? They feel like, okay, great. I don't have to keep showing up for someone. Silence to them equals space and their safety, right? I'm not losing my autonomy anymore because this breakup happened, right? But over time, they start to reflect on that relationship. This is why most coaches say about 2-3 months, which is accurate. I just talked to another guy today that talked about that too. They start to see things differently once you give them that time and that space. They began to miss the peace the consistency and emotional safety that you actually brought to their life. Now, whenever I work with someone who's an anxious attacher, I try to really question what did they do in that relationship that triggered the avoidant? And usually what they do is they ask for too much too fast, or they process, they have a moment where they just feel like they're just dysregulated. I'll pause here and you guys let me know if you can hear me. Let me know where you're coming from, and then I'll get back to it. I'll give it 30 seconds. Give you guys time to check up. If you're coming in right now, I'm talking about the differences between dismissive avoidance and fearful avoidance and what no contact looks like. We're going to talk first. I'm talking about the just kind of the overall, just kind of like a broad scale of what fearful and avoidant attachment style look like. And I'm going to switch into the timelines on what you should do and how you respond later. Right? Yes, good. You can hear me. All right. So moving on to the fearful avoidant, because we just talked about the dismissive avoidant, how they feel off the hook when you go no contact with them. They numb out. They feel relieved. They're like, all right, now I can go back and do the things that I normally do. But they start to shift and they feel a certain type of way after a while, right? Um, they begin to miss that piece that I talked about, the consistency and emotional safety that you provided for them. Weeks or even months later, how they return is usually small check-ins, social media likes, casual text just start to pop up out of nowhere. You're like, okay, this is weird and confusing. I thought this person didn't want to be with me anymore. So what you can do is stay calm throughout the time that they're texting you. I tell my guys and girls, don't go running back in there right away because you're just going to spook them again. You know, the turtle has come out of the shell, but you can't get too excited. Hello from Pakistan. You can't get too excited about it. You have to stay calm and show them that, hey, I just care about you as a human being. Right? And that's how they usually come back into your life. So you have to mirror that. The purpose of them reaching out is really to see if you're still emotionally available. Like, see, avoidance, they have this origin story of consistently not getting their needs met by caregivers or people in the past. I know a lot of the attachment style research has been rooted in childhood trauma, but there are scenarios and cases where it's not just childhood trauma. Like, you could have a secure upbringing, but get into a relationship that causes you to be more avoidant, or you can just get your heart broken really bad. So, for the fearful avoidant, let's talk a little bit about them when you go into no contact with them. The avoidant initial response is that relief, right? For the fearful avoidant, their initial response is rejection. They feel like you're proving them right. I talked about this in a couple of videos. You ever heard of the saying by Groucho Marx? He says, I wouldn't want to be a member of any club that allows me as a member. That's how a lot of the fearful avoidants feel. They feel as if they don't deserve you because they know that there'll be times where they can't control their impulses and their reactions to something that they're not happy with. You know, I see the fearful avoidance as being more the volatile type of attachment styles, for a lack of a better word. But that's just their nervous system needing to lash out and get out whatever it is that they're feeling. If you guys can still hear me, give me a thumbs up. What they start to feel is that you've given up on them, right? You've given up on me. You've given up on this relationship. So they panic and they feel that panic, abandonment, and loss of safety. Right? And so you will see the initial reaction with fearful avoidance is they start to lash out. They may curse you out. They may get upset. They may say, you did this to me just like everyone else in the past. That's how I know the biggest difference. Whenever I ask, what happened during no contact, did their person ever break no contact? They will come to me saying, oh, yeah, my person's a dismissive avoidant. And then they'll tell me that they post someone that they were with was posting these passive aggressive things online, these statuses. They were posting all these relationship quotes. They were posting these angry things online. And then I started to think like, okay, I think this person might be more of a fearful avoidant because that's typically what I see when it comes to them. And the way that you handle no contact with them is going to be very different than a dismissive, because the longer you stay in no contact with them, it's going to reaffirm their abandonment, and they're just going to say, all right, this person's done with me forever, right? What you'll see with them early on, this is how I tell. The early behaviors, they start to reach out, and like I said, emotional outbursts. Texts like, why did you disappear? I miss talking to you. And it'll be weird because they were the one that pushed you away to begin with. That's the difference too with dismissive avoidance. They don't actively push you away. It's just more like a slow fade. I got a video talking about that, the three type of avoidance. Check that one out. Or maybe the four type of avoidance. What you need to do during those times, though, is you need to stay consistent. Like, you don't want to be reactive. You don't want to match their energy. Whenever I see someone matching their energy, I'm telling them, you're participating in this and you really don't want to participate in this. So you need to like back off and let them go through whatever phases they need to go through. But they will get to that stage where it's usually earlier than the dismissive, way earlier than the dismissive, where they actually want to speak to you again. They want to talk to you again. Here's the timelines. So the dismissive avoidant, they're slow processors, right? Emotions surface after a long silence, a long period of, all right, I'm doing my own thing. I got my autonomy back. I don't have to show up for this person anymore. But the fearful avoidant, they're fast reactors. Uh, their emotions surface right away, just like what I just explained. Dismissives, they need to feel safe again, right? But they both need the time to really figure it out, what's going on within them. I just talked to a guy who honestly, he navigated this thing so perfectly. He was in a relationship with a fearful avoidant. He kind of just like stayed that calm, that patient rock. He was running the risk of just waiting too long because she did start to feel like, oh, he's abandoning me or he's really upset with me. You have to be able to show them that what you're doing right now, it isn't affecting me. I'm here with you. I'll be here when you come back from whatever it is you have going on. But I'm going to be that steady, stable rock. And this is something that not everyone can do. You know, this is for the people who reach out to me, or they reach out, they're commenting on my channel with some very volatile things to say, I would say. And honestly, it's just toxic things that they say. Well, if you know you're in a relationship with someone who has an insecure attachment style, get ready for the other shoe to drop if they're not actively doing something to, kind of heal their attachment style. So I use this example, and I don't know if this is a good example, but I use this on my coaching calls. If you get into someone in a relationship with someone who has a disability, let's say that they got into a tragic car accident and they can't walk, so they have to use walker, wheelchair, whatever it is. You know exactly what you're getting yourself into, right? You wouldn't protest over them not being able to take hikes with you, right? Because you can physically see what's going on. And if you did get upset with that, you have to tell yourself, talk yourself off the ledge and say, hey, this is what I signed up for. I got with this person because I truly accepted them for who they were. Which means if this isn't the type of relationship that I need to feel valued and secure and to kind of fill my love tank, then I shouldn't stay in this dynamic, because sticking around and making them feel guilty about who they are and how they operate, or the disability or whatever you want to call it, the inability to show up for you, then you're actually making their life worse, right? You're not bringing something to their life to help them become better later on in the future. Now, if you broke up with them at that moment, instead of toxically shaming them, because you have to understand, a lot of fearful avoidance, particularly, they have different levels of trauma than other people, right? Which means at some point they may have been toxically shamed by the way that they show up in relationships, and all you're going to do is reinforce that when you have complaints about it, or they're not able to meet you where you're at, right? They have a different buffer for their emotional capacity and their ability to regulate themselves when they feel dysregulated. So, how do you handle no contact right away? Wrapping this thing up. For both either the dismissive or the fearful avoidant. First, you have to understand that no contact is not a punishment, right? I call it, self reflection time. What I call it, I forgot what I coined it something at one point, but that was years ago. It's for you, right? It's self discovery. It's to understand who you are, and you can also in turn help them understand who they are and why they want to be in relationships. It just worked for a client of mine. Multiple. I'm shooting 3 for 3 this week, and I feel kind of good. Like I'm in the mode here for dismissive avoidance. Um, when you go to no contact, you're modeling into independence. Like you're proving to them if they broke up with you and said, "Oh, this was just too much. It was too clingy." If you went no contact with them, what you're saying to them is, "I'm able to regulate myself. I'm able to show that I can make myself happy. I'm content with myself." And it makes them feel safe enough to want to come back. This is why you see relationships fall apart again when someone gets back with a person that has an dismissive avoidant attachment style, and they get back. Oh, I can't believe I can't believe we're back together. All these different things. Overly ecstatic about being with that person, it makes them want to pull back again. So for the fearful avoidant, what you're proving to them when you go no contact is you're proving that you can provide that emotional safety and you can provide that calm, warm energy. You know what a lot of people say to me over the years, I've been doing this for 7 or 8 years now. And one of the things that they say, if they're an anxious attacher or if they're fearful, I just like your calm energy. Like what makes you different from other coaches is you have this like warm, calmness about yourself. And I ask them, if you were to meet a partner that had this same calm, not detached energy, do you think you would need relationship coaching right now? And most of them say no. Like it probably, and that's the whole point of having a therapist, a counselor, or someone that's able to model the energy that you're looking for in a relationship. And once you have that, I'm telling you, you would never go backwards. You wouldn't want to experience anything else because you've gotten your palate used to something that's healthier, that's consistent, that feels, I don't know if you can call it home, but that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. And if you found this video of any value, please like, comment, and share. Hold on, wait a minute. Let me ask them some questions here. Let me ask you some questions real quick. I'm sorry. I just went on this tangent and I wanted to get this content out there to you guys. If you have any questions, I'll do a short 5-minute Q&A real quick about your scenario and give you some live coaching. All right, windows closing. Windows closing. Thank you guys again. I see some familiar faces in here, which means you rock with me. Pakistan. That's so cool. Pakistan, Germany. What do you think about multiple breakups? What to do? So whenever I see multiple breakups, for me, it's a major red flag. I guess I know that word's overused, but it just kind of is because what it's saying to me is there's something fundamentally broken in that relationship, but for whatever reason, whether it's the inability to find someone or find someone new or wanting to go out and get back, put yourself back out there in the dating world, or there's this unhealthy codependency there that neither one of you guys want to admit to. So that's usually what I see. Every relationship's different. It can be I can be way off base, but if it's just like this hot take question like this, that's usually what I see. When someone decides to get back with a person who has a dismissive avoidant attachment style, you have to be ready to fully accept them for who they are, right? For example, if you ended up having kids with someone and the kids really are disgruntled with the father, the father may be unavailable, may not talk about his feelings or emotions, and you have the mom that completely accepts him for who he is. And she said, "That's just Jim. It's just he doesn't really talk much. He's not an emotional guy." That's someone who can probably stick with that relationship because she accepts him for who he is. And she might have been at one point. You see these relationships that last 40, 50 years, they've managed to work through that. So you really have to ask yourself, does this relationship have what it does has this person ever shown me that he's been able to be consistent and consistently meet my needs, right? But if you wouldn't be breaking up if also um are we sure he's a dismissive avoidant? So that would be my next question. If I have to think about what attach between fearful and dismissives, if someone was to ask me which attachment style does the most breaking up, I would say the fearful avoidant would be the one to break up first, to be the one to initiate those breakups. Reason being is because they have that anxious side in them and they have that protesting side in them. The dismissive avoidance can be in a relationship and just happily be in bliss, even if it's not a healthy one. Long as their autonomy isn't being interrupted or you're not protesting at all, they won't be the one to break up with you. So that question would be, all right, who is the one that's initiating the breakups? All right, I'm out of here. Thank you guys. And always remember, when you go and be loved, you'll never have to find it. God bless.